officially call the 2013 town meeting to order. And I would like to start by asking everyone to rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you remain standing for our traditional many years of one verse of God Bless America, please? God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. And lastly, we'd like to ask Tom to say a short blessing for the meeting. Everybody.
Okay, if you will be in prayer. Dear Lord and Creator, we are grateful to once again gather as friends and neighbors and citizens of the town of Jackson. As we do the work of our town, this one step in governing our beloved state of New Hampshire and our glorious United States of America. Tonight, let each and every one of us listen to what is said, read what is properly written in the papers, and let us see the good in each person and citizen here. Bless our future town and watch over our present meeting as we prepare for a strong future for the town of Jackson and for our children.
Amen.
Thank you. Before I get started with a few short rules and points for the meeting, I've been asked to recognize Selectman Bob Thompson for a minute.
This year we have an outgoing selectman, and we just wanted to, Jerry Dougherty, show our appreciation for Jerry's tireless work and 3 years of wonderful service to the town. So we put together a little plaque for Jerry, and he can hang it on his favorite wall at home. And he can put a little bouquet of flowers into his favorite vase at home. And take this gift certificate and go to a restaurant and have a nice time on us. So thank you, Jerry, for your support.
Okay, just a few short notes here. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I'd just like to ask that you all have a very positive and good nature tonight and get through the meeting with no interruptions if you can. I'd ask everyone, please, one person speak at a time and only after you've been recognized by the moderator. And discussions need to be limited to the subject matter of hand at the article that we are discussing. And I would also remind you that the very last article that we take up, entitled Any Other Business to Come Before This Meeting, has no legal effect. We cannot raise any money. We cannot take any binding votes of any type. It's basically just discussion and recognition. With that, if you do stand up and ask to be heard, please state your name so that the clerk can record it in the minutes of the meeting. And I know everybody thinks everybody knows each other, but there are some that we don't know by name. So if you do that, my very next order is I would like to entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the warrant in its entirety first, as we will be reading each article before we vote on them.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you. Okay, Article 5. Before I read this, some of you will probably groan a little bit with what we have to do, but Department of Revenue Administration has advised us. This article will have to be a 2/3 majority vote. It has to be done by a written yes or no ballot. It does not require a 1-hour hold the polls open, so we can get through the vote very quickly. And as soon as the vote's done, we're going to tally it as the effect. If this article passes, it will have an effect on the total line item dollar in the very next article. So we'll try to do it as quickly as we can. And the other thing I would say is when we get that vote process done while we're counting, for those of you in the audience that have either been elected or re-elected from Tuesday's elections and need to be sworn in, please come up and we'll take care of that while we're counting the votes. With that said, let's get into it. Article 5. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 for the purpose of paying the 2013 principal on the bond for the public safety facility and salt shed. The sum of $15,578 to come from the remaining balance of the bond for the public safety facility and salt shed. The sum of $9,775 to come from the unreserved fund balance. Fund balance as of 12/31/2011 is $1,013,045, and the remainder of the $14,648 to be raised from taxes. Requires a 2/3 vote of the town by ballot for passage. Select in favor. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? And I guess I would like to recognize the selectmen if you want a quick explanation of that. This is, as I understand it, somewhat of a housekeeping issue to be able to release that money.
It is, Bill. We've got basically $15,578 left over that was unspent from the bond, and this is the only way to remove it out of the bank and spend it. It needs to be spent towards the principal payment for the year once that happens. And the other money there is the sum total of the 3 warrant articles at the end, closing out the capital reserve accounts. So it's a housekeeping measure to be able to spend the money that we have left over from that. And it's the only way that we can accomplish that is through the ballot vote here at town meeting.
Are there any questions? Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. What we'd like to do, and you know you've all seen the drill before, we have to go through the supervisors. It's really quick. I'd ask that we start on this side of the room and let this side of the room kind of come through, come up the stair here, pass your yes or your no. You get a ballot, you tear it in half, yes or no to us for the ballot box, and go back down and realize that the rest of the room, once we get 2/3 of the way through, you will have to do that. Supervisors ready? Okay, I guess this side over here, if you can start. And go ahead. Sarah? Pass your ballot. I have no problem.
Do they do this on every ballot? No. Oh, okay. This is a special one. Oh, okay.
Get ready to leave. I'm not going to stand there for that one, right?
team playing, I think I'm supposed to be playing with the coaches.
You're going to have to play with us.
And double duty?
We may not have enough people.
Really? How come? Can't recruit anybody?
Huh?
Can't recruit anybody?
We might have 4 to 5.
Get your dad.
Yeah.
So that's next Friday, I think, right?
Yeah, next Friday.
Yeah. All right.
So I'll bring beer for you.
All right.
I don't have to do that many
You want to trade?
Yeah, sure. Hey.
The whole thing explained to us too by Jeff Dean.
One thing in mind. This is your first one.
He said that's the entertainment.
Don't let it scare you when I see that. If I was you, I'd never come back.
See the young people that come. The votes. About 380 different They would get stood up. The first one was stood up by registered kids. Steve Frost, Eddie Keane, Bob Keane, Robert
We weren't on the parent list. We're not on the parent list.
What a good idea. You didn't get the call. What a good idea it was.
We used to like that.
I mean, I don't know what it was like to go to school. I bet it was bad. It would have been worse than it was. But I know what it's like.
You didn't cancel it till 7:30.
It's a late, yeah.
Because I was here at 7:30, 8 o'clock.
I mean,
See what happened to you?
It rained. You know what? When you wear a garbage bag or whatever, you're going to get wet one way or the other, from inside or out.
we went inside. Back on, well, those kids in the way.
Right, too.
Thanks for coming.
Sure.
Civic's got its fine and
Oh, yeah.
back in the day.
Well, you're sitting behind it. For some reason. I don't understand why. We have to hide all the numbers. Right up. Let's just
Is there anyone in the room that has not voted on this article? Yes, okay, all right. Keep going. That has not voted on this article? Okay, the voting for that is now closed. We'll count those ballots, as I said. One little correction, that officially I need to read the results of Tuesday's elections during this meeting, so I'll do that. And once I get done with that, while they're counting, anyone that's here that got elected, if you want to come up and be sworn in, we can do that while we're counting. Okay? Okay, for Tuesday's election results, I'll read the school first. Tim Scott, 358 votes. I declare him elected for moderator. Lawrence Sinnott, with 354 votes, school board, declare her elected. Andrew Kearns, with 339 votes for school board, I declare him elected. The clerk's position was a write-in. We have no official candidate that's accepted at this point. The treasurer was a write-in, and Christine Thompson won the write-in vote. She is duly elected. For town, Terry Doherty with 181 votes, Gino Pulicello with 4 votes, and Bill Lockhart with 208 votes. I declare Bill Lockhart elected as selectman. For town auditor, Dave Mason with 255 votes. I declare him elected. For the trustees of trust funds, Martha Benish with 60 votes. I declare her elected. Library trustees, Sarah Duffy with 309 votes. I declare her elected. Roger Aubrey with 250 votes. I declare him elected. Cemetery of Trust Funds for Alicia Hawks with 361 votes. I declare her elected. And for your 3 articles, Article 2, yeses had 277, noes 108. Declare that article passed. Article 3, yeses had 139, noes had 246. I declare that article defeated. Article 4, yeses had 144, and noes had 226. I declare that article defeated. And as I said, if any of those present that have won elections, if you want to come up here, we'll do the swearing-in process, and after the close of the meeting tonight, you can officially take your positions. Anybody want to get sworn in? Come on up. Come on down.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
You're gonna
What are you gonna do when I'm done with it? I know that. Oh, if I had, I could read it right off right from my mouth. I've read it so many times. I've read it so many times. She wouldn't let me go. Forever. Yeah. She wouldn't let me go. You're gonna give me a historical burial?
You bet we will.
I can't be it, you got more votes than any of the other opposition.
Okay, listen to the results of your vote. The yeses are 106, the noes are 6. I declare the article passed. Thank you for an orderly vote and getting that done really quick. Okay, Article 6. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the selectmen's recommended operating budget of the town in the amount of $1,805,587, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately. See 2013 budget. Do I have a motion?
Second.
And moved and seconded. And in the discussion before you start, I would ask everyone, hopefully everybody has a warrant in front of them, and on page 97 in your report is the start of the proposed budget. We will be voting on the entire bottom line. If it could be amended up or down, I believe there is going to be an amendment suggested by the selectmen, but I will ask questions, and as we've done in the past, DRA says we have to group this all into these things and eliminate articles, but what we'll do is I'll ask questions on each different section. For example, the first full page is the town office's expenses. I'll ask questions on that, and I'll go to cemeteries and then police and so on. So if that's good, I'm going to recognize the selectmen before we start with the questions, because I believe they want to make an amendment to this and explain why. I'm going to ask you to explain that discussion. That might help. So that is discussion.
With Article 5 passing, that $40,000 is also in the $1,805,587 of the operating expenses. As a gross appropriation for the payment on the garage bond, the total payment for that is $68,700 for the year. That's included in this budget because by law we're required to make that payment. So if Article 5 had not passed, then we still needed to have it in Article 6. But being we no longer need that $40,000 in the operating account, we're going to take that $40,000 out. However, since we had the budget hearing, we've had 2 lawsuits that the town is being exposed to now. One from Frank Dinesh on an electioneering matter, and one from Gino Funicello regarding a public right to know matter. And we're anticipating that we're going to incur further legal expenses for that this year. So we are asking that the voters to support increasing the legal expense line item in the budget in the amount of $20,000. I'm going to make a motion to reduce the operating budget by $20,000 to the amount of $1,700,000. $1,705,587.
So you're making that as a motion. Okay, do we have a second? Okay. A motion's been made and seconded to amend the bottom. This doesn't stop discussion on the entire article. Motion has been made and seconded to amend the bottom line by reducing it by a total of $20,000. Now, I will clarify one thing. This motion and any other amendment to add or subtract money from that will only be advisory to the selectmen. The selectmen have the discretion to take that money and apply it any way they see fit in that category, as long as they stay within the bottom line. It pretty much will follow the wishes of the town, but does everybody understand that? So the intent is to reduce this total by $20,000. I would need a vote on the motion. If the motion passes, we'll go back to the discussion, and at the bottom of the discussion period, we'll vote on the entire amount as amended. Is everybody clear on that? So I would ask for a vote on the amendment only. All those in favor of approving the amendment, signify by discussion. Excuse, yes, sir, sorry.
You have a motion on the floor, correct?
Yes.
I'd like to suggest that that motion be amended to $15,000 reduction, and the $5,000, the selectmen take it out and give it to the cable TV fund. We take in $18,000, and we're giving only $5,000 to the cable, to the TV station. I'd like to up that to $10,000. So if you reduce that amendment to $15,000 rather than $20,000.
So you're making a suggestion that rather than $20,000 be reduced, we only reduce it by 15.
Correct.
I would need the motion and a second to agree to that, and rescind those, and we would reword the motion. It's getting a little confusing, but I apologize for that. Everybody, we could make another motion at the end to amend the total of that as well. But
Okay, but I didn't know whether they might start.
because we're not, as I said, all I'm doing right now is voting on the motion to amend the total amount, regardless of how technically it's divvied up between the
I'm
different amounts.
suggesting that the amendment change if they're willing.
The only issue that there's going to be more motions to change the bottom line on that number. It might start to get confusing. And I mean, I guess I'd suggest that we go through this motion first, and then if you wanted to make another motion to increase the
I would ask
bottom line by 5,000.
same thing. That would be clearer. Does everybody understand? So we're voting on an amendment that was proposed by the selectmen on reducing the total amount by $20,000, pretty much as a result of, partially as of Article 5. Is everybody clear? Is there any other discussion on the amendment? So we're voting only on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment of reducing the total by $20,000, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment carries. Now back to discussion on the town office's expense. Any other discussions in that category, which is all of page 97 and two items on the top of 98? Any other discussions on any of that? Yes, sir. Dave.
I'd like to propose an amendment of the adjusted budget by increasing that $5,000 to be allocated to the cable TV.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, a motion's been... What's these two? We might have to separate.
Other brother.
We have a motion on the floor to increase the bottom line by $5,000 that's been made and seconded. Again, we're only voting on the amendment. Does anybody have any? Sarah?
Yes, Sarah Clemens. By doing this, does this mean that we not only get the Channel 3, which gives us our school activities and our neighbors' selectmen's meeting? Will this include our selectmen's meetings being on Channel 3?
She's asking if we pass this, will it include our Jackson Selectmen's meetings to be televised on that Channel 3.
That's up to the selectmen to negotiate that.
That's good, Ashley. Thank you, Sarah, for the question, because I was going to ask Dick if that's what the intention of the money was. I believe the last proposal that we got from the Valley Vision, is that what it is? So the Valley Vision was that for an additional, I believe it was either $5,000 or $5,500. I think it was for an additional $5,000, we would get some coverage, videotaping of our selectmen's meetings from that facility. So that was something that the selectmen could negotiate to use for, yes.
So that could include some meetings as well as the other activities that we're already seeing.
That's what they're saying. That was the last conversations they had with Valley Vision. That doesn't guarantee it could happen again. Any other questions on the amendment? If not, all those in favor by increasing the bottom line by $5,000, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'd like to do a show of hands. That was pretty close. Well, you all just jumped. Can I have this side of the room, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. This side of the room? Okay. All those opposed this side of the room? Okay. Declare the motion passed. Okay. Okay. Any other questions on the categories? Hearing none? Okay, we'll move to any questions on the cemetery category. $10,863. Police Department.
Mr. Mother, is the final line on that going to be down 20 or down 15?
We're right now it's down 15. We'll read the actual amount.
But there hasn't been a motion on that.
No, we're going down the categories for questions only at this point.
Okay, thank you.
And as you remember, many years we used to do it individually. And now we can't. Okay. Any questions on the police budget at this point?
This is just going back a bit. The TV item is under recreation and parks.
Just the bottom line.
Yes.
Not in that section. We just.
I agree. I understand that now, but it is there again. It's only a suggestion as far as where the actual money comes out of. The actual money comes off the bottom line, and the selectmen will act accordingly. I apologize for that. He is correct. It's under recreation and parks. Police Department. Okay. Barlow Jackson Ambulance Service, $6,400. Any questions? Fire Department, $160,750. Any questions on the Fire Department? Highway Department, $700,750. Is there any question on Highway Department? Jackson Transfer Station, $119,000. Any questions on Transfer Station? Social Services, $6,540. Is there any question on Social Services? Okay. Recreation and Parks, and this is where that $5,000 actually would be lined. Thank you, Warren, for that correction. $19,700. Any questions on that category? Okay, I will ask for a vote on the total operating budget of $1,780,000. Excuse me, $1,780,587, and that is as the two amendments total out to. Sarah?
Sarah Clemens again. If we put the 5,000 back in from the 20 that they suggested we take out, if we already have in here budgeted 5,000, does that mean we just budgeted 10,000 for our cable TV? And that we really should be able to get our selectmen's meetings on television?
Being the selectman, I believe that's to be true.
It should be 5,000 more.
Yeah, well, we have 5,000 in the budget already for that. And your amendment amends the bottom line and suggests that they add that 5,000 in that line item. As I said originally, you can't mandate the lines, all you can do is suggest it. The intent is there.
The total doesn't seem to be right. After $20,000 off the budget, right?
No, right, that's an incorrect. 1,805,587 minus 15.
790. You increased the budget by 25.
Yes. Reduced it by 15 to the total. So the new total, the corrected total, that's an incorrect number. The correct total is $1,790,587, which translates into a $15,000 reduction from what is proposed today. Is there any question on that? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Sorry for the confusion on that. Okay. Article 7. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 to be placed into the existing road reconstruction capital reserve fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/2012 is 0. Said funds to come from the unreserved fund balance. The fund balance as of 12/31/11 is $1,013,045. Select in favor. Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Not? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 8. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $125,000 to be placed into the existing heavy highway vehicle capital reserve fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/12, $50,028. The sum of $100,000 will come from the unreserved fund balance. Fund balance as of 12/31/2011 is $1,013,045. And the remainder of the $25,000 to be raised from taxes. Select in favor. And moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Gino.
I ask one quick question. That $1 million balance in the unreserved, that's as of December 1st, 2011. Do we have any idea what it was on December of 2012? Because we're spending $300,000 or $400,000 out of that year-old amount.
We don't know the exact amount, you know, that's why we always put in the exact amounts that we know of. Although we can anticipate that that number is going to go up a little bit. We're about $180,000 under budget this year, or for 2012. But we did spend $100,000 from the unreserved fund balance to adjust the tax rate in October. And we spent about $47,000 from the unreserved fund balance in last year's warrant articles. So it should be going up a little bit, but the exact amount isn't known yet.
Any other questions on that? Yes, Bob?
This is greater.
I prefer that to selectmen.
That's correct.
That's going to be
Yes.
greater.
Just asking if it's still here. Excuse me, Bob, can you speak?
Is that going to be a used grader or a new grader?
That money that we're proposing would be used to purchase a new used grader. And the cost of what we would have to spend for the used grader would be about $200,000. Currently, a new grader would run in the neighborhood of about $350,000. An example of a used grader that we've already looked at online would have about 940 hours already in service. The current grader that we have in place is a dresser that was purchased in 1986, new, and at this point in time, it's difficult to get parts for the dresser grader anymore. We're looking at probably about a $20,000 to $30,000 bill if we're going to have to do major work to the transmission or the motor at this part, and there are concerns that both of them may be going soon. The cited needs for the grader in 1986 when it was purchased was that we need something more heavy duty than a truck, especially when it comes to winging back the snowbanks in the winter and taking a load off of the truck fleet. Those are still current needs that the road agent and the town crew have identified. We typically use the grader on an average since 1989. We've averaged about 368 hours per year on that grader. On an average year. We're looking at about 90 hours for grading in the summer. We're looking at about 48 hours on average a year for ditching in the summer, 20 hours a year for shimming roughly on an average year, class 4 road maintenance roughly 20 hours, plowing about 40 hours, and then an average year would have us about 50 hours a year for winging back the snowbanks. Heavy winters, we've used it for as much as 200 hours. So we did a cost comparison study with new versus used. We did a cost comparison study with buy versus lease. Really can't find an all-wheel drive grader, and that's a 6-wheel drive grader that we could even lease out in the winter. And the average cost of leasing out a grader in non-winter months just for that use would be about roughly $135 an hour, and the cost comparison came out to roughly, the cost comparison for contracting hire based on just 200 hours of the non-winter use would be around $27,000 per year. If we were able to find one available at least for winter use that would include the winging and the plowing, that would be roughly about $49,680 per year. If we purchased a used grader, certainly one with 980 hours on it, or roughly thereabouts, for $200,000, we'd be looking at an average cost of about $20,200 per year over a 20-year life expectancy. If we purchased a new grader at around $33,000 and expected that to get a 30-year life expectancy, we'd be looking at a per year cost of around $22,000 per year. But that would be obviously with $130,000 more initial layout on that. So after looking at all of the options, we felt that we could get a good solid used grader with those low hours. We'd be able to depend on it for at least a good 20 years. Even that's probably a low estimate. Avoid the $20,000 to $30,000 cost of replacing a motor or a transmission on the existing grader. And because it's an 86 and it's a dresser, it's not a cat, it's not a deer, we're almost looking at something that's considered to be an off-brand at this point in time, and we would have difficulty even finding parts for that kind of a major repair on it. So after looking at all that, we decided that we would propose and recommend to the legislative body tonight that we set aside $200,000 for purchase of the used grader that we could expect a good 20-year life expectancy on. I don't know if that answered it.
Not as long as the answer, all the light is their research. It's the most cost-effective way they feel they can go.
not I've been opposed to the straighter idea for a long time. And it's not that I don't think that we need a grader, but I don't think we need a grader to plow snow. I also had a conversation with Gene Chandler, the selectman in the town of Bartlett, and I asked him if he thought it would be possible to get a joint venture going between the town of Bartlett and the town of Jackson, and he said he was certainly willing to listen to what they had to say, and he would be in favor of joint use if it was workable. The other thing is about 850 contractors in the state of New Hampshire. And as near as I can tell, very, very few of the contractors buy graders to plow snow. They buy graders to grade roads. That's why it's called a grader. It's not made for plowing snow. It was not bought, that grader that was bought in '86 or '7, whenever it was bought to grade roads, not to plow, and it did not plow roads. I don't believe it plowed roads the first 3 years we had it. And I just don't understand it. You know, back when I was a selectman in 1963 to 1973, we plowed the roads in total with 2 ton-and-a-half two-wheel drive trucks, ton-and-a-half trucks, small trucks. We did that, and when we needed to grade back and we couldn't get the old tractor running, we'd hire the state to come in and do it, and they did it at a very reasonable figure. I think we ought to start thinking a little bit different than most of the country is starting to think. We ought to start thinking about what taxes are going to be eventually if we continue the same trend that we're headed on. I really am opposed to this, and I just want to speak to it. That's my feeling. Other people certainly have other feelings.
Yes.
And I certainly do respect Mr. Abbott's comments. I would like to just quickly cite, though, because I took so much time initially, the road agent's report from the 1987 town report after we had purchased the dresser grader. And his report basically stated that they purchased the new dresser model A606 all-wheel drive grader, planned to do all the heavy winging and plowing so as to take the load off from the 84 and 85 international trucks that were part of our truck fleet at that time. Those needs are still there, and our road agent has graciously invited anybody that wants to ride up the switchback with him when they're doing grading, winging back up those plows, and said the difference is night and day. And so certainly, I'm not the professional that drives the truck, and so we do look for guidance from them. We've had a grader on site doing winter winging and plowing in our town since 1986, and we do believe that need has been established, and it does save life on our existing truck fleet.
Any other questions? Just
My name's Fred Henry. I've lived here all my life. I disagree with what Ray Abbott says. First of all, we know that. First of all, keep quiet. First of all, if you don't think a grader should plow snow, Conley plows uses a grader every storm from Conley to North Conley. The state uses graders each notch. They got one grader. And I disagree with about 2 one-ton trucks plowing these roads. We got a lot more hills than we had years ago. A lot steeper ones.
Oh, I didn't see the mountain road.
You want to buck off the end of the way? You want to take a ride around?
I think we used to roll them too at one time.
I guess, you know, people don't understand what equipment does. I own a lot of equipment, and a lot more. I like to lease it too, but you can't do that. If I was a joint venture, that's not a good idea. Because when the road washes out, the house road's gonna wash out the same time Jackson does. Well, I want the grader, they're gonna use it. The same thing with plowing snow and winging snowbanks back. When they're winging them back, you're gonna want to wing them back. it ain't gonna work out.
Thank you. I drive two-wheel drive car.
Yeah. It wasn't four-wheel drive.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, all those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
So voted.
You're against it.
Article 9. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 for the purpose of repairing Dundee Road. Selectmen favor. Been moved and seconded. Is there any questions? Yes, B.
I think it's a super highway now.
Any other questions, comments? None? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 10. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the Highway Truck Capital Reserve Fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/12 is $50,162. Selectmen favor.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any questions? No.
Quick question, how much, the 75,000 in the fund then, how soon are you gonna have to buy another, highway truck, you know?
Well,
Anybody?
that's why I'm not resetting.
Oh, within the next, maybe next year or the following year, we'll replace the small truck.
If you do it next year, you're not gonna have enough, do the small one.
We'd be within 25,000, so next year's capital reserve fund would put us to the point of having all the money to purchase the small truck.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 11. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $38,000 for the purpose of highway repair and reconstruction. The sum of $8,200 to come from the special reserve fund known as the Highway Repair and Reconstruction Fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/12 is $8,263. And the remainder of $29,800 to be offset with the anticipated state highway block grant received in 2013. Selectmen favor.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
How is this different from Article 7? Are these two different funds?
They have two different funds. Article 7 is a capital reserve fund that the town established. I don't remember what year it was that it established it, but it was, I believe, I don't recall what year it was, but that was never funded the year that it was created. And that fund is one that was set up specifically to put money away for long-term road repairs. Really at the time, there was a discussion about whether, well, we're going back to Article 7, so there's really no point to that. This is funded specifically for the highway block grant, which is one that comes from the highway program. It's not to do with what the town funds, so it's funded for this.
It's like a reimbursement. The government actually gives us that money, correct?
It does.
Yes, Article 11, that money comes into town, this authorized.
And the $8,000 is the balance that wasn't spent this year, so that's being reappropriated for this year.
There was a hand in the back. Is there another? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 12. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be deposited in the existing fire truck capital reserve fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/2012, $209,098. Select in favor.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 13. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be deposited in the State Aid Reconstruction Expendable Trust Fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/12 is $9,433. Selectmen favor.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
What is this for?
What is it for?
It's for 16B, the state road. It's a matching. State puts 20 down, we put 20 down. That's where you get your shim on 16B. It's actually a state road.
It's on the state, it's a state highway, it's the Route 16B, Route and 6 Mile Loop. And it's matched with the state funds.
When the state took over the roads there was an agreement that whatever funds we would raise to be put into the roads, the state would match as well.
Is there any questions? Anyone else? Okay, if not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's voted. Article 14, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $69,503 for the support of the Jackson Public Library. The sum of $52,553 to be raised from taxation, and the remainder, $16,950 to come from the library trust funds and gifts. Selectmen in favor.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or question?
I keep talking to Tom Hall here, but I remember back when they voted to build this enormous library, that it was all going to be paid for. We didn't have to worry about taxes and all that about it. There was a lot of comments about that from some of the pro-library people. And I've seen us do nothing but raise money for it. And I don't know what's happening. It's got to be something wrong with what they thought. I don't know if they wanted to stand up and admit it. I would be glad to hear that.
Go ahead.
Houlihan, library treasurer. The new, or shall we say current library, was a $1.2 million building that was built with $300,000 private funds that were raised. The rest was, over the years, capital, just like this, put aside for the library. The salaries for the library staff have always been paid by the town. And the day that building opened, that $1.2 million library, it belongs to the town. So this $52,000 that the library is asking for, $42,000 pays the 3 staff for the 5 days we're open, and $10,000 pays the electricity, the heat, the telephone, and the elevator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a question as well? No? Okay.
Call the question.
Yes, excuse me?
Call the question.
I'm going to ask, is there any other questions by anyone else first? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 15. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the police cruiser capital reserve fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/12 is $17,675. Select in favor.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Voted. Article 16. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 to be deposited in the police department equipment expendable trust fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/12 is $5,728. Select in favor.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 17. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,981 to be deposited into the Baker Prospect Farm Trust. Fund balance as of 12/31/12 is $50,616. Said funds to come from the unreserved fund balance. Fund balance as of 12/31/11 is $1,013,045, which represents the same income amount of the $8,980 from the Baker Prospect Farms 2012 timber sales. Conservation Commission favors, Selectmen favors.
So moved.
Second. Do we have a second?
Second.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there any questions? Yes.
I would just like someone to explain what that is. I'm not familiar with what the money is used for if they have that much money.
Chairman of the Conservation Committee, Art Siebert. The money was collected from timber tax from the cutting on that property, and we'd just like to put that money back into the Prospect Farm Trust. We've used a fair amount of that, the Prospect Farm Trust over the years to do clearing up there, to maintain the cellar holes, bring back the apple orchard, and we hope to get signage, maps, and identify the cellar holes. And from time to time, we could use money, and we just want the timber tax money that we cut the timber up there to go back into the property.
Any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 18, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,535 to be placed in the transfer site building and recycling equipment expendable trust fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/12 is $86,014. Said funds to come from the unreserved fund balance. Fund balance as of 12/31/11 is $1,013,045. Select in favor. Moved and seconded. Any questions?
Back in 1991 or two, Peter Kelly, I think, put about $49,000 had the town put in a...
Can you speak up to...
In 1991 and 92, Peter Kelly had $49,000 authorized into the fund for scales for the transfer station. Every load of demolition, construction debris that goes out of there is gauged by somebody looking at it, deciding how much it weighs. For a while there, Bartlett was losing $1,200 a month on the loads they were sending out. My recommendation would be somewhere along the line that the select body talk to Bartlett and try to get them to pony up some money for scales so that we would know when our loads left for there, the construction demolition loads, that we were getting an accurate count, because we're not taking in enough money at the transfer station to cover the final cost when it gets to Berlin. But it's a suggestion, the money's sitting there, whatever it's going to use, I don't know.
That's been discussed many times.
It has.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 19, see if the town will vote to establish a capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the purpose of constructing a septic system, supplying water to, and maintenance of the old library building to be known as the Old Library Capital Reserve Fund, and raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in said fund, and furthermore to appoint the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend. Select in favor.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Go ahead.
Edith Houlihan, this is a question more for the selectmen, where it says supplying water to and maintenance. I was under the impression that with a current town building, we don't set aside a capital reserve fund for maintenance, that the maintenance comes out of the town building maintenance fund. So I'm just wondering if, this $10,000 may be being set aside to do a septic, you do water, but maintenance of a town building shouldn't be coming out of a capital reserve fund, it should be coming out of the town building maintenance fund.
The old library committee that was formed to come up with a plan for the building came to us and asked us to create the maintenance fund for it, to keep it separate from other buildings so that we could establish the maintenance fund particularly for that building. And that's why we put it on the warrant.
There was, yes.
If the old library stays where it is, what can it be used for?
Who's going to answer that?
The old library is available for Jackson residents for social, educational, cultural events. There are events occurring there now. There is a French language group that meets there. There have been book signings there, so it's available and being used.
Dick?
Obviously, the value of putting in a septic system and getting a bathroom in that facility will make it more useful for whatever purpose it's advertised.
Betsy?
It seems to me to be a prized building. So many people appreciate that building. And if we don't put money into it, what else do we do with it? Do we let it fall down?
Could someone from that committee give us an update on where they stand with the septic design?
We're working on it. If it was easy, it would have been done. We have an idea. We are waiting for the parties involved to concur with it. And it's obviously a complicated situation. It sits on property not owned by the town. And we're looking at putting a system on property not owned by the town. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but we think we have a viable plan if we get the parties to agree. If we don't get the parties to agree, there are other options. Electric toilets, composting toilets. I mean, obviously they're not what we prefer, but we're still working on it. Holding tank's not possible. It's too close to the river. We've talked to DES about it. The buildings never had water or never had a bathroom, so they will not allow a holding tank. We tried that one.
Last year, there was $5,000 appropriated to study for and possibly build a septic and water supply to the building. There was still $2,500 left over that wasn't spent from that. In the maintenance of town buildings line item this year, there's $2,500 as representative of that money that could be spent towards the construction of a septic system and bringing water to the building. It's a guess that that cost is going to be probably over $20,000 to do that. So this isn't looking as money to actually see it through. It's beginning to raise money to do that. And some of the hopes is that there may be private donations to come in. And that's why the warrant article includes both of those things, because originally it was brought to us as strictly a maintenance issue. And we also wanted to make sure that that money would be able to use, if there's money that is raised above and beyond that to build the septic system and bring water to the building.
Susan May, in our original wording of the article, we also include the preservation. Building needs paint, it needs quite a bit of work on the inside. And somehow the word preservation got left out, the words got added.
Well, again, the words maintenance covers preservation of the building, and we added the septic and water supply to make sure that any money in that article that we wanted to spend towards it could be used for that.
Anyone else? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 20, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 for the purpose of developing the master plan and build-out analysis. Selectman favor.
No move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? John?
Seems to me we spend a lot of money on trying to figure out what the hell the town is going to do with different property and stuff like that. To me, it's a waste of money. We have plenty of people around here that can do it for nothing.
Any other comments, questions? Gina?
I think good stewards should always manage for the future. And I think the plan that was done 10 years ago worked out very, very well. And future planning should always be part of the game.
Anyone else? Sarah?
Town is mandated to do a master update of the master plan, I believe, every 10 years, and it is time to do that. And this money will be used to do the research needed for the master plan and also to get some analysis of where the town is going.
If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
So voted. Article 21. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,500 for for the purpose of controlling the spread of knotweed on town properties and roads through the use of herbicides and other methods. Selectmen in favor? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have moved and seconded. Is there any questions or discussion?
What's not?
Just,
I'm curious as to why this is specific to knotweed and not perhaps other invasives.
No.
Still here?
Still
here? Bill Davis?
We don't used to having this.
The knot, someone asked what knotweed was. Knotweed it's that, it almost looks like bamboo. It's growing pretty much, you see it everywhere. Bill, was it 2 years ago that we started the program to eradicate it, I believe? At any rate, 2 years ago, we started a program to eradicate knotweed. And there's really no way to ever get rid of it entirely. And the idea behind this is just to control the spread of it. And specifically for knotweed, because that's the one that we're targeting. There are other invasive species, and certainly, it might be wise someday to target those as well.
So does this money go to a particular herbicide that's only effective on knotweed?
No, it's most likely going to be like a Roundup type herbicide. And the reason why it's worded with other methods, because there are, it's not just spraying with herbicides, it's cutting them down sometimes at the right time of year and then applying the herbicide. So there are techniques, and it does need to be done by a licensed person that would know what they're doing.
Bill, you started to, did you start?
He answered it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? This is the, just a second. I saw her first there, so Susan, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's Martha.
Oh, Martha, excuse me. I was looking at her and saw you.
The twins. Martha Denish. They talk about other methods. I know what the knotweed and the chemicals are, but what's the other methods, just for sake of clarification?
Martha, mostly that's cutting the plant down and then spraying. There's been all sorts of debate about the best method to remove knotweed. Some used to think it was actually pulling it up, and that tends to actually spread the roots more. The best technique at this point in time is to cut the plants down and then spray them, or spray them first and then cut them down. So basically spraying and cutting is the plant method.
Thank you. I just wanted to know, not discuss. Thank you.
This is the bamboo you're talking about?
Well, it looks like bamboo almost. It's a plant that grows about 4 to 6 feet high in huge bushes, and stalks look like bamboo stalks.
There's no question the last 5 years it increased dramatically. Growth was spreading all the time. And it is difficult to get rid of it. I know up to the Frost Old Home up in Cardinal, they have serious problems up there with it. And they tried everything under the sun to get rid of it. It's not easy. I'm surprised you can do that much with this so little.
Bill?
We did spray some knotweed on the raised-in property along the Wildcat behind the town hall. I think it was about 3 years ago. We did that 2 years in a row. We had a great deal of success with it. We didn't get it all, but we had a great deal of success. And this program, because I talked to the fellow who would do the spraying, would target knotweed growing along the scenic road. So that we're talking about Park and Notch and Thornhill Road and Greenhill Road. That's what it's saying. And it is primarily a spraying exercise. It has to take place in August, after the plants the flowers, and the sap is instead of going up, the flower is coming back down into the root. It's essentially going to be a red spray.
Is there something besides Roundup that you can use that's really toxic? Is there some kind of something that's toxic to property that is not toxic to the rest of the soil, to the other plants, and to the water, especially over wild?
There's two chemicals that are commonly used. One is habitat, sometimes called arsenal. That's what we use for the grazing property. The habitat is suitable for use in wetlands. It is highly toxic plant. You mix a little Roundup with it because the arsenal and the habitat attack part of the plant structure Roundup. But you have somebody who backs that sprayer so that they're walking along their spraying just the plant. so that you really try to avoid any spray that gets off onto any other plant. And that's the only way to attack. And as Jerry said, they tried pulling it out and tried to it only responds to the chemicals.
Yes.
I would just like to agree with this lovely lady behind me that we will trust the selectmen when it starts getting to be, to come to fruition. Our particular knotweed patch on Green Hill Road is right at the brook. And we don't drink that water because we're on a well, but a lot of people in Jackson do. And I think there's a definite trickle down effect of these herbicides, pesticides, whatever, and I think it just bears some study, and we're not going to decide that tonight. But that's, I think, it's a little scary, that's all.
Anything else? Yes.
Jeff Maynard. I had a brother who passed away at the age of 39. He had a job spraying for the town of Barnstable and down on Cape Cod. I'm personally against the use of herbicides, period. I may be in the minority.
No, you're not.
All right, one more and we're gonna, anybody else at this point? Okay, all those in favor, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. So voted. Article 22. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,358 for the support of White Mountain Community Health Center to help meet the health care needs of the uninsured and underinsured residents of the town of Jackson, submitted by petition, Selectman Favor.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Bill, point of order. Is it possible to have somebody speak to the petition article, somebody that was part of the petition, so we know what it's about?
Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this article? We don't have anybody specifically here. They're not required to be here. It would be nice, but we do have an individual who will speak to this.
I'm just saying that maybe the body would like to hear from somebody, know what these are, rather than just blankly vote.
Yes.
Edith Houlihan, White Mountain Community Health volunteer, and I just ran the Valley's Got Talent show last weekend, which is a major fundraiser for White Mountain Community Health. White Mountain Community Health Center provides health care for everyone in the valley and needs people who can pay, but also has a sliding scale fee for people in the valley who don't have insurance or are underinsured, which for many people who work a multiple amount of part-time jobs, that's a lot of people. So this is our small contribution to their budget, which is funded through state and federal agencies, which also keeps getting cut every year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'd like to speak for it. The community health service is one of these, well, several services in town that really produces a lot for your dollar. There's no overhead to it. Everybody in there works very hard to deliver the services that they do.
Thank you. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 24. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,500 to support the Jackson Home Delivered Meals.
Article 23.
Oh. Check one, sorry. Back up. How about Article 23? Everybody agree to that one? To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $716 for the support of Northern Human Services to assist the Mental Health Center, submitted by petition, Selectman Favor.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Say of all the petitioned articles, this seems to be the one that's most underfunded. The rarest, most rare resource in this community is mental health care. You can see us only compared donating $716 to that compared to some of the other monies that have been presented it just seems off scale.
It does seem like a small amount, Angus, you're absolutely right about that, but that's what they requested us to put on the warrant article for them. Every year they come to us with an amount, and that's what we put on.
I'd like to make a motion, we increase the amount to $1,500.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. President? You can't increase the petition article, can you?
Can't?
You can change the amount of money, you just can't change the intent of the wording of the article, as long as, you can change the wording, but not to change the intent. It can be defeated, it can be amended. Would you like me to find the...
No, I'm just curious as to, doesn't seem like a petition article. A petition article is not part of the town's.
I understand. I gotta say that in my memory of 20-something years assisting and doing this, I don't know that we've ever amended a petition article. I never voted in favor or against.
I was a moderator for 32 years and I never.
But it can be done, so. Jerry, did you have a question?
I was just going to say that you cannot change the intent of the article. You can change the amount.
Yes, that's what it
It
is.
is legal to do so.
Anyone else? Okay. Oh, I know. Yes. I'm sorry.
Change the amount from 7 to
I apologize. Repeat that, please. I missed it.
I make a motion to increase the amount from $716 to $1,500.
And it was seconded by, okay. There's been a motion, it's been made and seconded, I apologize. Communication there. A motion that's been made and seconded to raise the amount by up to a total of $1,500. Is there any question on the amendment? So we would vote on the amendment. If the amendment passes, we'll vote on the article as amended. Everybody clear? Okay. All those in favor of amending this article to total $1,500 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendment passes. Okay, back to the original article as amended. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,500 for support of Northern Human Services to assist Memorial Center. Memorial Health Center, submitted by petition, Selectman Favor. Yes, sir. No, we voted on the amendment, which was to amend it to $1,500. Now we're voting on the article as amended. Yes. Everybody clear on that? It is a procedure that some people may not agree with, but that's the way we do it. All those in favor of the article as amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Now to Article 24. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,500 to support Jackson Home Delivered Meals, Meals on Wheels, congregate meals, transportation, and program services provided by the Gibson Center for Senior Services, Inc., submitted by petition, Selectman Favor.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions?
Rise and Gino Funicello, I put the petition in. It's a wonderful program. Help deliver the meals occasionally. A lot of people out there need this help. I advise you to vote for it.
Other questions? Not? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 25. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 for Tri-County Community Action for the purpose of continuing services of fuel assistance program for the residents of Jackson, submitted by petition, Selectman Favor.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions or discussion?
You've got a motion to raise that amount to $6,000.
No.
But the price of oil, delivery now costs $600 to $700 and a 250-gallon tank. There are a lot of people around, and some of them in Jackson, that are really, really pressed And I think it would be wise for us, if we're spending $100,000, $200,000 on roads and stuff like that, we've got $1 million fund balance, I would recommend that we increase that, because this is something that really can help people that might be in desperate straits in Jackson. And
You're submitting that as an amendment
amendment to raise it to $6,000.
to a total of $6,000. Is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion that's been made and seconded to amend this amount to a total of $6,000. Is there any question on the amendment?
Do we have any idea how much money was spent last year on fuel systems? Is there any way to know?
There isn't any way for us to know that comes
No,
from,
no idea.
that comes from them. It's likely that Jackson didn't get $3,000 worth of fuel systems last year, but that's just from speaking with them. So.
Bill?
Was it Tri-County in the news about having difficulty, and
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the difficulty was.
Yeah.
I think they did pay out all their,
And we can't speculate on whether that's... Yes, sir.
The article, as it's worded, says for the residents of Jackson. So it doesn't matter if it says that this money is only supposed to go to residents of Jackson, not to the Tri-County community area.
I guess you are 100% correct. It does say for the residents of Jackson. That's going to have to be something to select.
So that means that money may have been...
Well, it does say that, sorry, but that's the way they submitted the petition, and so it's the way they wanted to say it, but the money doesn't go into the town of Jackson general fund, so.
Yeah.
Good.
You know, we're raising something for an outfit that is, for all practical purposes, bankrupt. We're raising it. Everybody is, including former employees of Tri-County, are under charges. I think we ought to wait and see if we have a Tri-County, because Tri-County has never been any good since they've been there that I know of, other than spending money. If you don't believe that, look at the big Taj Mahal down there, down in Tampa.
Sure.
Is there anyone from Tri-County here that can speak to whether or not Jackson had $3,000 spent on fuel assistance?
Dick?
I'd like to ask a question of the selectmen. In all these articles...
We don't have, apparently we don't have anybody to answer your question.
So the answer is no.
Go ahead, sorry.
In all these articles that come before us, where you voted to accept it, have you reviewed the information that is provided to know whether it's economic, the needs are correct and something that we should be voting for? The presumption is that you have, but
Good question.
Yes.
I'm asking you specifically, have you looked at these articles and know that the need is there, this is what they want, and it's justified as spending the money you have with?
I mean, there's a pretty broad question about everything that's in the warrant.
It is.
And, yes, we do. Everything that we submit to here that we consider supporting or not supporting, we do diligently research.
And based on that, then I would suggest we stay with the original motion that you have recommended.
And the information that we have on this one is that Jackson usually does not see the return on what we contribute.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I would recommend that the selectmen also go back to Tri-County and recommend that if they're going to come back to a petition like this again in the future, that they focus on weatherization, because a lot of times folks that need this money have houses which are burning up a lot of fuel, and you have to fund this year after year, whereas the weatherization emphasis would be a one-shot deal, and then you'd be out of it, and really would help them as well as the town. So this strategy here is one I know is being looked at nationally as well. But it's the wrong way to approach the problem.
Well, I can tell you that we would probably want to do that next year. And there are questions about what Tri-County CAP programs are still going to be in existence a year from now, but it's a great suggestion on how to do that.
Anyone else have a comment or question on this? If not, all those in favor of the motion, we're voting only on the motion. Excuse me, only on the motion to amend to a total of 6,000. If you pass that in favorable, we'll go back and vote on it as amended. If you defeat it, we'll vote on the original. Everybody clear? So we're voting on the amendment. All those in favor of voting on the amendment to raise this to a total of $6,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The amendment's defeated. Any other question on the original article as submitted by petition? We'll be voting on the original article at this point. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Let's do a show of hands on that one, I guess. That's pretty close. Or I can do it again. Please speak louder this time. We'll make it quick. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
So voted. Article 26. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,500 for the Early Supports and Services Program, birth to 3 years, of Children Unlimited, Inc., submitted by petition. Selectmen favor.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any question? Not? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. 27. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $679 in support of Starting Point, providing advocacy and support of victims of domestic and sexual violence and their children. Submitted by petition. Selectmen favor.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any question? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. So voted. Article 28. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $500 for the Eastern Slope Airport Authority for its use in maintaining and improving the Eastern Slope Regional Airport. ESSA is a non-profit organization committed to foster, encourage, and assist in the location, settlement of resettlement of industry, manufacturing, and other business enterprises in the locality surrounding the site of the public airport. Submitted by petition. Selectmen favor.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any questions?
I'd just like to speak on behalf of the board of the airport and the manager of the airport, and thank the town of Jackson for their continued support over the years. Thank you.
And this is just to clarify that this is the airport in Freiburg?
Correct.
Yes.
Eastern Slope Regional Airport.
Yes. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 29. See if the town will vote to discontinue the Public Safety Facility Capital Reserve Fund created in 2005. Said funds with accumulated interest to date of withdrawal are to be transferred to the town's general fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/12 was $4,651. And that's a majority vote required, and it's a simple majority, not a two-thirds majority. So I'll try to do it with an overwhelming voice vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 30. See if the town will vote to discontinue the Public Safety Building Expendable Trust Fund created in 2005. Said funds with accumulated interest to date of withdrawal are to be transferred to the town's general fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/12 is $1,435. Again, majority vote required.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Not all those in favor? Opposed? So voted. Article 31. See if the town will vote to discontinue the Sand and Salt Shed Capital Reserve Fund, created in 2008. Said funds with accumulated interest to date of withdrawal are to be transferred to the town's general fund. Fund balance as of 12/31/12 is $3,687. Majority vote required.
Second.
Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 32. This one. See if the town will vote to pass the following resolution. Whereas the founders intended that government should be answerable to, controlled by, and dependent upon the people alone. James Madison, Federalist Number 52, 1788. And whereas the influence of corporate and other moneyed interests on the political process has diminished the dependency on the people alone. Be it resolved that the voters of Jackson, New Hampshire, instruct Jackson's state representatives to call for and Jackson's congressional representatives to propose an amendment to the United States Constitution declaring that the rights and protections afforded to citizens by the Constitution of the United States apply only to natural persons, and the federal and state legislatures shall have the authority to regulate and limit, but not ban, all expenditures from any source supporting or opposing the election of any candidate for federal or state office, or for any initiative or referendum. Jackson's state legislatures are instructed to ratify such a constitutional amendment. If a majority of the voters support the question, the selectmen shall immediately, on the 21st of January of each year, until Congress has proposed an amendment, and such amendment is ratified by the state, send a written notice to Jackson's congressional delegation and to Jackson's state legislators, informing them of the instructions from their constituents. Before our discussion, is there a motion to move?
Second.
Moved and seconded.
I move that we pass over this motion.
I'm not going to accept that motion. It is strongly recommended by the Department of Revenue Administration, the Attorney General's office, and the Secretary of State's office that you do not pass over an article. It doesn't do away with it. You either pass it or you defeat it and put it to rest. I will not accept a passover unless I'm overruled on that. So, any other questions? Bill? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mike, I'm wondering, based on the reading of this, if this isn't in response to the decision by the Supreme Court on Citizens United that has allowed so much corporate money to be, invested in the political process. Is that, I don't know if it's in there, but is that the intent? Yeah, if it is, I certainly think that the Supreme Court made a huge mistake when he did that.
Okay. Frank?
I'm going to speak against this. I'm just absolutely concerned by what unintended consequences there might be here. This says that it will declare that the rights and protections afforded to citizens of the Constitution of the United States will apply only to natural persons. That's a sweeping statement that affects the property rights, the speech rights of any kind of somebody that isn't a person. That's corporations, to be sure, but it also includes nonprofits. Tin Mountain, for example, has been running ads trying to promote a change in adoption of warrant articles in the towns in the valley. This could be read to restrict that. It could affect the property rights of private trusts that own real estate. It's just so sweeping that though you may be opposed to Citizens United, this I don't think is the way to address it for what other things may happen from this. Natural persons, that could be read to include school districts not having speech rights or property rights. So I urge you not to vote for this just because it could mean so many other things than what you're trying to do. Thank you.
Okay, I had two hands up here and one more, so Betsy, go ahead and I'll come over to.
Betsy Harding, I was one of the people that signed the original petition to be able to bring it forward. And I understand that there are questions about that, but when you look at the part right in front of that where it talks about the rights and protections afforded to citizens by the Constitution of the United States, that's what we're talking about here. And when you consider that the quantity of money that has been sunk into the elections since 2010, when this came forward, it's overwhelming. I find that the small amount of money that we manage to donate to political campaigns is totally dwarfed by the money put into campaigns by the huge corporations, by the trade unions, labor unions, corporations. Everybody is putting money into it, and therefore I think has a much louder voice than mine. If I'm putting in $250, are they going to pay as much attention to my opinion as the guy who's putting in $10 million, $100 million? The answer is no. Corporations can put that money into PACs, into various ways of funding their political candidates without having to be accountable. So the candidate will know, obviously, who's donated money to that person's candidacy, but you and I won't have a clue. So we don't know who's having the strong influence, whereas the candidate will. The candidate's obviously going to spend much more attention on the candidate, on the people who are paying higher money. And corporations can't go to jail. We can. They're not people. We are.
Hey, Trish, I was just going to ask, other warrant articles are identified as being submitted by petition. This one doesn't say that, and I just want to know where it came from. But Betsy answered that question, I assume.
I can answer that. We were told that we needed to have 16 1/4 people sign a petition, and it turns out we had about 25 people sign it, and we submitted it.
I believe it is supposed to say submitted by petition, and it does not, but it was submitted by petition. And I would also clarify that it's a non-binding warrant article. In other words, it's not necessarily something that the Board of Selectmen would have to follow.
Is there any other questions, discussions?
Bill?
Fred?
I don't know how it happened, so hang on for the building falling down, but I'm joining Frank Benesh.
All right.
We can get you a hat. Right.
Let's move on here, thank you. Any other questions? I see another hand, or is that it? Okay. If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The article is defeated. Article 33, to act upon any other business which may legally come before this meeting.
I'd like to request that next year we have a public address system so that when people speak back here, we can hear all the questions and all the remarks, because I missed a lot here.
Okay. We actually do have, we could have done that this evening.
We could have.
Not sure when we did it, you said not to, so.
Yes. Deputy.
I'd like to suggest that we thank all of the people who have served the town of Jackson and no longer going to be serving, and to thank the people who have volunteered and been elected to serve, and Godspeed to them.
Along those lines, I'd like to recognize Ray Abbott, who recently retired from the last board he served. He started in 1949, serving this country as one of the youngest entries into the United States Air Force. He flew B-29 bombers for us. He served as selectman many, many years. He was one of the longest serving moderators we ever had. and he recently retired from the planning board. I'd like to recognize Ray's service to the country and to the town.
Is there any other?
Thank you, Darren. Thank you,
Hearing none, I would entertain a motion that the meeting be dissolved.
I'm debating,
And motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you very much.